Hey, happy Mother's Day out there to all the moms and moms-to-be, grandmothers, sisters in Christ. Today we celebrate you and all you mean to us, moms, grandmothers. And I just want to acknowledge that there is really no way that we can dream up something that will adequately say thanks for all you do for us and all you mean to us. I'm really aware of the fact that both moms and dads in our present day American culture get a bad rap. In fact, whenever I'm watching a show that has a child or a teenager being respectful to his or her parents, it's always kind of a shock to me. Because for the most part, parents are portrayed by the media and by television and movies as being stupid, judgmental, clueless idiots who deserve to be verbally whipped by their own children. But let me just say this and get it out of the way. We do not have a right to dishonor our parents verbally or otherwise. Parenting is a hard job, and all children should look up from their devices and notice that lady who's running all over the place trying to keep you educated, hygienic, and well-groomed, and that she's trying to prepare you for the whole range of social dynamics that you will experience once you cross the threshold into the adult world. And according to divine law, that's God's law, you must honor your father and your mother, and you can't choose one over the other. You can't play them against one another, even if you're a child of divorce. This is not God's will for you. And you can't just find the weakest link and fake respect that parent until you get your way. Honor within the family is designed to come in double doses. And when you dishonor your mom, by definition, you dishonor your dad, and vice versa. And honor is something that's supposed to happen every day, not just on the second Sunday in May or the second Sunday in June. So just for a few minutes today, I want to help you decide on what to get your mom for Mother's Day. I know you're going to have a hard time deciding, and during this COVID thing, probably also have a hard time shopping for her in any way, and you're probably wondering, well, how does he know what my mom wants for Mother's Day? I saw a cartoon the other day that I thought was funny. It was Jesus fretting over what to get his dad for Father's Day, and in his mind bubble, he was thinking, what do you give someone who is everything? So I'm going to take a stab at a seemingly impossible task. And that is to tell you what I know your mom wants for Mother's Day. And some of my information comes from a lifetime of listening to moms talk, and some of it comes from prayer requests that come into the church each week. And before the corona quarantine, we used to collect these prayers on cards during church. And now as we pass out communion each Sunday, Thea stands at the side and asks each person if they have anything that they would like us to pray about. So there's a lot of data out there to suggest that if you ask any mother what she would like you to pray about, the overwhelming majority of the time, maybe even as much as 90% of the time, she will ask you to pray for her children, no matter how old or how young they are. So why is that, do you think? It's because when she sits down to pray, the prayers that always float to the top of her list of concerns and praise are all about her children. And I know there's nothing that burdens a mom's heart more than when she sees her children going in the wrong direction in life, and there's nothing that gives her more peace than knowing that they're going in a good direction and the right direction. But before I reveal to you the Mother's Day wish list, I want to make a couple of apologies to this generation. If my generation is sometimes tempted to ask something like, what's wrong with these kids today? Then we have to be honest and try to answer the question, what did we do wrong that allowed this generation to become like this? So first of all, I want to apologize that so much of the world around you has led you to believe that disrespect for your elders is acceptable. Sometimes the shows that you watch even promote rebellion as being cool. And I apologize that we allowed you to fill your idle time with the viewing of all kinds of nonsense and ideas that can't possibly lead you to good thinking or respectful actions. We were your parents, and many times we relinquished that role to MTV or video games. and more recently to smartphones that have given you a wealth of information, but no wisdom to use that knowledge with common sense or unselfishness. And I apologize to those kids whose parents turned control of the house over to you about the time you turned 2. Some were intimidated by the whole responsibility of parenting and just had no one to train or mentor them in childcare. And others may have been simply distracted by their own screen time and found it easier to sit in front of a television and let you spend your childhood there. At any rate, I'm sorry for the times when personal time with you was elsewhere consumed with jobs or activities that didn't build a strong bond of respect between you and those in the generations before you. And many of you have missed out on a lot of wisdom that's most often naturally passed down from father to son, from son to grandson, from mother to daughter and daughter to granddaughter. So I also want to apologize for the culture of death that you grew up in that has been shamefully guarded over by the abortion industry, that has subliminally brainwashed many into thinking just how expendable their lives are. Politicians have rigidly stood their ground to guard the idea that you're just a product of conception instead of a living soul, fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. And the result has been that the value of life itself has been diminished, and many opt out because they just don't know how precious and valuable they are to the living God. And more recently, world culture has even led many to be discontent even with the gender they were born with, giving people options to defy even the sacredness of God's creation. This whole gender confusion thing has robbed our children of their innocence and has become, in adulthood, the most atheistic spit in God's face that we've dreamed up yet. Shame on the world into which you were born. But you should know that you were made and loved by God when you were being woven together strand by strand in your mother's womb. And you are what you are because God has made you. And He loves you and sent His Son to die for you. You were not a mistake. And you are not expendable. God wants you and His kingdom needs you. Anyway, it seems like a contradiction to ask you to be loving and respectful to a generation of your elders that may have let you down in so many ways. But that's what I'm going to ask you to do. And someday you'll ask your kids to do the same. The truth is that your parents already know that they're not perfect. They don't really need your input on that. They were also guided or misguided, as it may be, by those who laid a trail before them. But a day has been set aside for those who can still do so, to honor their mothers. And I would pray that you would use this day to make a significant change in your life, to start honoring and speaking respectfully to your mom. And even if you're an adult, learn to honor your parents, even if some of them are lost and still setting bad examples for you. It could be that maybe even some of you have become embittered or estranged from your moms or dads. I read a lot of Mother's Day humor on the internet this week, and a lot of it pokes fun at mothers for being judgmental. But the real truth is just the opposite. That kids are also judgmental to their parents these days. When you thought your mom was being judgmental, she was, in all likelihood, just trying to steer you past huge mistakes that you could make. Drugs, alcohol, etc. But when you label her as judgmental just because she cared enough about you to risk losing your respect just to keep you safe, that's a huge mistake. And not only judgmental in and of itself, it's way outside the range of anything that's true. Anyway, here's my stab at what you can do or get your mom for Mother's Day. And I don't think it's too late now because it's already Mother's Day. Just let these ideas sink in and then pick the one that's easiest to start with and start it today. First of all, I think your mom wants to know that you place a pretty high value on her. And she needs to hear it from your mouth or in your words. The Proverbs 31 description of a woman of honor starts out by saying this: an excellent wife who can find, for her worth is far above jewels. Let her know what she means to you, how valuable she is to you. My mom would probably never say that she was a perfect mom, but she was perfect for me. And I can't even explain what I mean by that, but I know there was a reason why God gave me to her. And most moms, I believe, are similar in the sense that they don't at all think they are perfect. But they're probably perfect for the children God gave them. And those children need to place a high value and let her know, for her worth is far above jewels. How can you place a price on your mom? What monetary comparison can be made to equal the value or the worth of the woman who has given birth to you and nurtured you and hovered over you like a wild animal, protecting its young from harm and predators? Secondly, she also wants you to trust her. Now, this may be a good gift, especially for teens, to give their mothers. She wants you to trust her when she says you can't do something because it may not be socially safe. Why do you argue with her? Why does she eventually just have to be the bad cop and say, because I said so? Why can't you just trust that she has a degree of wisdom and experience that's greater than yours at this point in your life? The next verse in Proverbs 31 says this: the heart of her husband trusts in her, and by extension, so should her children. Why? Because verse 12 says this: she does him harm, or does him good, and not evil all the days of her life. And here's the thing. Your mom may not always be right, but she always has your best interests at heart. In my whole life, I've only met a handful of moms who are exceptions to that. But for the most part, our moms were always looking out for our best interest. And they may not have been perfect in any other way except this one. They may not have been the perfect cooks or the perfect housekeepers, but they were the perfect guardians of our hearts, and they were always driven by this unselfish motivation to look out for us. And may those moms rest in peace who have gone before us, and we say a word of thanks to you for that motherly instinct that no amount of our rebellious attitude could shake from you. Thirdly, as an idea of what you can get your mom for Mother's Day, you could make a list of all the jobs she's taken on for you and for your siblings. You know, one of the cartoons that I really liked was the one where her kids are very excited to tell their mom that they hired a few people to fill in for her so she could relax on Mother's Day. So they let her out on the lawn where a huge group of people is just standing there: a fortune teller, a seamstress, a clown, a nurse, a baker, a priest, a taxi driver, and a maid. But if you're honest, really honest about it, there are so many more jobs that moms handle on a daily basis. And in today's economy, she often does all of them in addition to working a full-time job. And in some cases, she does all that alone as a single parent. So I don't really think it would be an exaggeration if I said that this is largely this never-ending work ethic of moms that makes a thriving economy even possible. Look at this list of things that King Lemuel's mom reminded him of. She said she looks for wool and flax and works with her hands in delight. She's like merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it's still night and gives food to her household and portions to her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. From her earnings she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She senses that her gain is good. Her lamp does not go out at night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hands grasp the spindle. She extends her hands to the poor, and she stretches out her hands to the needy. She's not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes coverings for herself, and her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies belts to the tradesmen. Wow, what a description. Who could be such a super mom? The truth is that most moms are like this. They work hard for their husbands and their kids. They do it all day, day after day, with little to no thanks or recognition. But once in a while, it's good to make our own list and lay it on her. Not one of those lists compiled by Hallmark, but a list that's personal to her and heartfelt from you. Also, I think your mom wants you to trust her in the present so that your future will look brighter. Look at what verse 25 says. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future. The sad truth of every mother is that she knows that she's preparing you to live life without her someday. And she knows that this parenting job is going to be over one day. But she can smile at that future if she knows that she has done her job well and that you have received it well. She wants you to give her some kind of regular reassurance that you're okay and heading into the future in the right direction. Your mom's spent your whole lifetime opening her mouth in wisdom and teaching you with kindness and looking well to the ways of her household. She has not eaten the bread of idleness, but has put her heart and soul into the hard work of raising a family. It's about time that you rise up and call her blessed. For her husband to praise her and for someone to say, Mom, you're the best. Verse 29, many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them all. And especially if she's a woman who fears the Lord, if she is a woman of God, a faithful Christian mom, let us be the ones who praise her for the work that she has done. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the product of her hands and let her works praise her in the gates. And I'm sure that your mom will also appreciate a gift from the store on Mother's Day. But you can be sure that if you give her any of the things I mentioned here, that gift will mean so much more. To value her highly and tell her so. To trust her implicitly that she has your best interests at heart. She may not always be right, but she is definitely not always wrong either. At least give her that much and quit arguing. Make a list of all that she does and let her know that you notice. And periodically throughout the year, just mention to her that you don't take her for granted. She's not doing what she does for money or fame or even for appreciation. She does it because she loves you with a love that you will never fully understand until you become a parent yourself. But a little appreciation goes a long way. Happy Mother's Day to my mom and to all the mothers listening today. You're the best.